All right, welcome in. It's great to have you here. Mike Guido here with you, back on the grid. It's been a long time coming, but it's Christmas in June. So I'm a very happy camper today. We are a day separated from the NBA draft. And if you haven't seen it already, I encourage you to go and check out the my full NBA draft guide, full scouting reports on 120 prospects that could be selected tomorrow night. I encourage you to look into that and see some of the information. We've got separate articles on the Grid website where I break down specifically the top 30 prospects on my big board. So if you haven't done that, make sure you catch it tomorrow night. It is the Grid NBA Draft Show. It'll be myself. It'll be Bryson Carver, my incredible host. So if you're not doing that, make sure you tune in tomorrow. Make sure you check out the draft guide. All of that ahead of tomorrow. Make sure you follow the Grid for all of your draft coverage. And let's get into this. So we've got brand new news, right? I mean, earlier today we saw Denver and Indiana make a trade. There were two teams in the NBA draft this year that had 5 draft picks going in, and pretty much what happened is Indiana was one of those teams. It's Indiana and Charlotte. Indiana dumped a couple of those picks. They got to pick back, but now they're down to 4. The defending champion Denver Nuggets are now sitting with 3 picks in the NBA draft. They were just at 1, and now they have 3. 29, 32, and 37 now belong to the Denver Nuggets. So we will discuss what they are going to do with those picks. I'm going to provide here. I had to upgrade it. If you looked at my guide already, I had pretty much I had a mock draft 20 all 58 picks, first and second round, and it kind of went down the toilet a little bit with all these trades. Kristaps Porzingis just got traded to the Boston Celtics, so that changed a couple of things. So I needed to rework this thing quick and then get here. So, but a lot of this hasn't changed. The top of the draft has really not changed all that much. So, without further ado, let's get into this as I adjust here. So, first pick in the draft. And again, I'm not just going to run down through everything, I'm going to give you my thoughts throughout. um, so number one is very simple. Victor Wembanyama is going to be the number one overall pick, and that's not really a question at this point. I saw something earlier today where some guy bet $60,000 for Victor Wembanyama to go number one, and his cash out if he wins is like $300. So it's a done deal. It's a done deal. It's been a done deal. And if it wasn't going to be the San Antonio Spurs, it was going to be somebody else. We knew that he was going to be the number one pick before the lottery, before any of this happened. Um, and that hasn't changed in the entire draft process. He's the best prospect I've ever evaluated. There's absolutely nothing like him. Listen, his combination of size and mobility is unlike anything we've ever seen. Listen, he's the no doubt top pick. Listen, I've been I've been covering the draft since 2017. 2017 was my first draft, excuse me, where Lonzo Ball was my number one player. And there has in my time of covering the draft, and again, it's a small sample size, but in the 7 drafts that I've done, my top prospect that I've evaluated prior to this was Zion Williamson, and Victor Wembanyama shatters Zion Williamson with every inch. So, like I said, best player that I've ever evaluated. And the one thing I like to point out is that I have a rule. If you've ever seen what I've done with the draft before, you understand how every single player that I evaluate, I give a pro player comparison to. I just think it gives people who are not following as intensely, but know the NBA, kind of instead of just going on and reading, oh, this guy's great in the pick and roll, he's great in this, he's good, instead of reading the entire breakdown, It just gives you, oh, okay, this guy reminds me of this player. Oh, I've seen him play before. Okay, that makes sense, right? My rule generally for that is that I don't ever give I don't ever give out one single player a comparison of more than one player. So Victor Wembanyama broke the rule for me. So listen, I'll tell you this: the next player we're going to go over is Brandon Miller, and I compared him to Paul George. That's the way I do things. Victor Wembanyama, I needed to compare to two players because there is nothing like him. Imagine if Kevin Durant and Rudy Gobert were one player. That's Victor Wembanyama. And again, that's a lot of hype and it's a lot of expectations, and I understand all that. But you also have to keep in mind, I mean, uh, pure talent. If you've ever just seen any highlight tape of this kid, it takes you about 2 seconds to recognize the difference between him and anybody else. It's just insane what I mean, the guy's hitting, he's 7.5 feet tall, and he's got a 9.5 foot wingspan, and he's hitting 35-foot three-pointers off one leg. I mean, what more do you want? He's just an incredible player. So the San Antonio Spurs, top pick overall, they'll go with Victor Wembanyama. Done deal, done, 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 done. Okay. Now, this is where the draft gets interesting because the Charlotte Hornets, I'm sure, are going to take this all the way to the buzzer. They are going to look at this and they're going to say, okay, Brandon Miller, we really, really like him. But listen, Scoot Henderson, probably the better prospect. Listen, my personal big board, I have Brandon Miller as the second overall player. I like him a little bit more than Scoot Henderson, but I know that Charlotte is going to take this all the way down because I'm sure they're going to be debating all the way down. So right here, I'm going to take Brandon Miller for Charlotte, right? His shot making ability is among the best in the draft. Okay, this is my understanding of the situation. I don't have that much inside information, but my understanding of the situation is that Charlotte had a workout with Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller on Monday, and Brandon Miller just turned out to be a little bit more energetic. He looked a little bit more enthusiastic. He just seemed to have performed a little bit better, and that is causing the Hornets to lean more towards Brandon Miller. Now, even prior to that, I think that Charlotte should have gone with Brandon Miller just because he's a more natural fit, right? If you put Scoot Henderson in the same backcourt as LaMelo Ball, do I think it could probably work? Yeah, it probably could. But the truth is that they're both very ball dominant guards. Very ball dominant. LaMelo Ball is unbelievably ball reliant. He is. He's a big guy, 6'8", 6'9", and Scoot Henderson, he's about 6'2". You could probably play them from a size perspective next to each other, but you also have to look at what LaMelo does well, right? LaMelo is a 22 and 11 guy. Scoot Henderson is a guy that needs to score 30 points a game, but he's also a true point guard. He's a guy that averaged 6.5 assists, right? I mean, he averaged 6.5 assists in the G League last year. So Brandon Miller right now, I think, is the more natural fit. To me, he's a spitting image of Paul George, which funny if you think about it. That's apparently Brandon Miller's GOAT. Um, so listen, like I said, good versatile defense, good shot maker. He's one of the best shooters in the draft. I think he's got a ton of offensive upside. I know that there are a lot of people that really feel that Brandon Miller's upside is not that of a superstar. I disagree. I think if you can get the most out of him with his size and length, I mean, me and my buddy Barry Grant Jr. talk about this all the time, and I'm sure you're going to see Barry either at some point tomorrow night or on his podcast, the All Even podcast. But we and him talk about this all the time. The combination of size, significant size, right? 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", long arms, and the ability to shoot is rare. It doesn't happen very much. And Brandon Miller has that. So I like Brandon Miller to go number 2 to Charlotte. The other thing I want to point out, because I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it, Brandon Miller's off-court instance is incredibly bad, right? Now, like I said, I've never met the kid. I'm not sure he's a bad kid or not. I really am not. But I'm stunned to this point, if I'm being blunt. I'm stunned that more teams are not worried about Brandon Miller's off court instances. I really am. I am stunned that most people are not because what happened with him, and he didn't really, like I said, he didn't, he wasn't the one who did it, but he was heavily involved. So I don't want to bog the kid too down because, like I said, I've never met him. The kid, he could be a wonderful human being. I've never met him before, but and I hope he has a wonderful NBA career. I really do. I hope he has a great NBA career. I hope he stays out of trouble and everything like that. I'm just shocked right now that if you're a team like the Charlotte Hornets, right? And you're deciding between Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson, and it's razor thin. The margin of talent between the two, the decision-making process is razor thin between the two of them. I'm very stunned that the off-court problem that Brandon Miller provided is not pushing them more in a direction of Scoot Henderson. That's just me. That's just me. Maybe I'm looking at this more, maybe I'm looking at this way too in depth, but Brandon Miller, I think, is, you can't ignore that if you're a team. So, anyway, moving on. Brandon Miller, number 2 overall pick. So, Victor Wembanyama to the Spurs, Brandon Miller to the Charlotte Hornets. Now, Scoot Henderson. Let's see if I can do it. Can I actually do this? I wonder if I can do this and maybe I can show it. See, I'm not used to this. So, I'm going to try typing it here. So, if I do this, and oh, would you look at that? I can. Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's get caught up. Victor Wembanyama to the Spurs. And then here we go. Watch this. Hornets, Brandon Miller. Boom. Send it out and show it. Bam. I love it. I love it. Man, oh man, this is going to be a fun show. Okay, so here's the other thing. Now, when you look at Portland, right? Because Portland is in a scenario where they're just kind of sitting and waiting to see who's left because they're going to take whoever's left. Scoot Henderson is going to go to the Portland Trailblazers. If Brandon Miller goes number 2, right? I'm not going to say this as if it's set in stone, but if it's, listen, this is my mock draft. In my mock draft, Scoot Henderson's going to the Portland Trailblazers. And the job of the Portland Trailblazers is actually very, very easy. You sit and you wait on who's left. And if I'm Portland, I'm thrilled with either option. And if it's Scoot Henderson, I actually might be a little extra thrilled because I love the idea of having an electric player like Scoot Henderson playing point guard and an electric player like Shaden Sharp playing shooting guard. That backcourt gets me really excited. Really, really excited. Now, I am in the unpopular opinion, and I didn't think it was going to be all too unpopular, but I actually think that it is now. That Scoot Henderson, to me, is my number 3 overall prospect. He's not number 2. And the reason being is because I think Scoot Henderson can shoot, but he has to prove it to me. Okay, Scoot Henderson last year at the G League, I'm going to look down at my stats because I don't have them locked up in here yet. He shot 27.5% from 3 last year in the G League. A high volume player, right? You got to be able to hit more shots than that. Now, I know that, you know, a lot of that is poor decision making, and he can probably wait and get that out of him a little bit later. But Scoot Henderson needs to find a way to increase his feel for the game and figure out how to just take better shots, right? He needs to improve his shot selection. So they have a chance right here, Portland, to pair up Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp. And that's going to be one of the most exciting backcourts in the game. It really is. Like I said, if it were me, I understand that right now, you know, they're not looking to move Damian Lillard. But if it were me, I'd at least dangle him and see what I can get. I really would. And listen, I don't buy the fact that Damian Lillard all of a sudden wants to stay. I think that there's more than likely a chance that, he wants to leave. He can't go his entire career not being good enough, right? He's going to want to go somewhere and really compete for titles. Portland's been out of that mix for a while. So, listen, they should try to figure something out. And listen, if you're Portland, I know that they were entertaining trading the number 3 pick. I'd keep it and take Scoot. I would keep it, take Scoot, trade Dame. That's me. You're not in a position where Dame can help you. You're not. You're going to be retooling for a while. Shaden Sharp was a young, raw player last year. Scoot Henderson is not going to go into the NBA and be a full-blown all-star. No, he's going to take a year or two to really come into himself. He's a lot like Jalen Green, right? I mean, Jalen Green has spent the last 2 years of his NBA career trying to find his efficiency. And again, you're hoping that next year for the Rockets, he can find it. Scoot Henderson's going to have a similar career trajectory. He's going to be a guy that's going to look, and you're going to see him in his first NBA season, and he's going to shoot 38% from the field. Right? And then the next year, he's going to shoot about 43, 44%. He's going to get a little bit better. And then once he gets to the point where he's shooting 47, 48%, and he's shooting 36% from three, that's when he puts it all together. Damian Lillard is not going to wait that long. He's not going to wait that long. So dump him. See what you can get for him. I'm sure you'll get a haul. I'm sure it won't be like what Washington got for Bradley Beal. It'll be much, much better. So that's the top 3 right now. And I think, listen, this is the top 3 that pretty much everybody has. Wemby to the Spurs, Brandon Miller to the Hornets, Scoot Henderson to the Trailblazers. My boy Carving It Up podcast. Look at this. Look at this. I'm going to put your comment up here, Bryson. The young players in Portland's backcourt is the very reason I'd move on from Dame for more assets. Not to mention, you also have Anthony Simons. So I agree. That's exactly what I was saying before. I think that Bryson is exactly right. He'll be joining me tomorrow night. It's going to be a very, very good show. I think we have the best draft coverage out there, and I'm not biased, even though I co-founded this network. So, I mean, listen, I think if you're not tuning in, you're missing out on something. We have great coverage, and I'm looking forward to it tomorrow night. So now, Houston at number 4. And I apologize that this is moving a little bit slower, but early in the draft is where you're going to see a lot of, what ifs early on. A lot of people think now, again, right, they're going to say the draft starts at 2 with Charlotte because they don't know who they're going to pick between Scoot and Brandon Miller. After 3, right? After 3, because we know that the top 3 are going to be the top 3. After Portland, you get to Houston. Jump ball. It's everything's up in the air. Now, there's essentially, when it comes to the Houston Rockets pick, there's 3 schools of thought. The first being, and this is the one that I like, and this is the one I'm going to go with, is Amin Thompson of Overtime Elite. That's the direction they should go in. Because in my eyes, Houston has to accomplish 2 things this offseason. They need to improve defensively. That's the first thing. The Rockets last season were as bad of a defensive team as there was. They were putrid last year on the defensive side of the basketball. The other thing is they need a guy that can distribute to all these scorers. Houston has a plethora of guys that can score and do a ton of different things at the basket from the perimeter. Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Alperen Şengün, Tari Eason, Josh Christopher. They have a ton, Ty Washington. They have a ton of guys that can make stuff happen all over the floor. So that's the direction I'd go in, is Amin Thompson. The other 2 schools of thought, the least popular is Jarris Walker. Jarris Walker went to Houston. He's beloved in the city of Houston. And it would not be unreasonable if they wanted to go that route. It's a clunky fit. I'm not sure I'd love it. I don't think they should do it. Not sure it's going to happen. The other one that very well could happen, and I think it would be a mistake if they did, is Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore out of Villanova is right now. Actually, let me pull up the big board. I probably should have printed out another version of my big board just so I have it on me. See, this is a learning process here. Um, Cam Whitmore is my ninth overall player. Now, at 4, I think he's a little bit of a reach, but you're gambling on upside with Cam Whitmore, and I have my own reservations on him. But the reality is that even if Cam Whitmore pans out, he's another scorer. You don't need more scoring. The If you looked at what the Rockets put together last year, I mean, they were stout from 2 to 5, right? You're looking at Jalen Green, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith, Alperen Şengün in their starting 5. Their starting point guard last year, who? Dacian Nix? It's not good enough. So, to my selection, number 4, and let me remind myself to write it down in this cool little chat right here. Amin Thompson, overtime elite. That's their guy. Now, 6'7", 202 pounds, 16 points a game in overtime elite, 6.5 rebounds, 6 assists. He shot 57% from the field. Now, I understand that overtime elite, a lot of people question it, and they're right. A lot of people question the competition that you play in overtime elite. I understand that. However, Amin Thompson is just a sick athlete. If you've ever watched this kid play, this kid jumps out of the building and he runs the floor like his ass is on fire. He's just unbelievably athletically gifted. And on top of that, he's one of the better perimeter defenders in the entire draft, and he might be the best passer overall in the draft. He accomplishes, this is the thing, is Rockets fans were pissed when they lost out in the lottery and they lost the opportunity to get Scoot Henderson. We needed Scoot Henderson. And yes, a Scoot Henderson, Jalen Green backcourt would have been pretty much just as exciting as Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, maybe even more so. But Scoot Henderson doesn't solve your problem. Amin Thompson does. Amin Thompson, if I'm the Houston Rockets, Amin Thompson should be higher on my board than Scoot Henderson. He's just such a perfect fit. He's going to play point guard for you. He's going to play point guard. He's a phenomenal defender, and he's a great playmaker, and he can get to the rim and finish. So when the floor opens up, he can hit holes. He's got tons of burst, and he can finish at the rim. He is such an unbelievable fit for this offense. It is unbelievable. Okay. Amin Thompson is like a more athletic, faster Ben Simmons. Like that's my comparison for him. Now, the one flaw with Amin Thompson is this. He shot 23.3% from 3. He is way behind as a jump shooter. He's just not a jump shooter. Now, if you can get him, now again, it's not like Ben Simmons where he won't shoot. He will shoot and he'll work on shooting, but he's got a ways to go. If he can learn how to shoot, oh boy, then Houston's got something very, very scary. So Amin Thompson is, in my mind, no doubt the pick for Houston. It is an unbelievable fit. It is the perfect fit for the Houston Rockets. Okay, and now we even get more interesting because Detroit is in a similar scenario. Do they take Cam Whitmore? I don't think so. Okay. Jarris Walker out of Houston is the guy for me. So let me put it in here so everybody can see it. So Jarris Walker out of Houston is my pick for the Pistons. And now here's the thing. Jarris Walker, I think, is going to be not only the better pick for them, but I think he's the guy that they'll prefer at the spot. So my understanding of the situation, and this is where I've heard things from outside sources, Detroit was not overly impressed in the times that they worked out Cam Whitmore. They weren't overly impressed. So Plus, on top of that, you have to keep in mind, Jarris Walker's a better positional fit for Detroit. He just is, right? Cam Whitmore's a 6'6", sort of swing wing kind of guy, combo wing. Jarris Walker's a power forward, right? Jarris Walker right now stands at 6'8", 240 pounds. He's a big guy, and he's got a ton of upside, right? He's one of the more pro-ready players in the entire draft. Great upside as a 3-level scorer. He's a very versatile defender. And listen, the Pistons are in a position where they are trying to fill holes at both forward spots, right? They love what they have at guard. They love it, right? Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, they love what they have over there. They like what they have at center, right? With Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart. They love those guys. They need forward help. Jarris Walker immediately gives you that. And he's an instant improvement. Like I said, he's pro ready. He's going to walk into the NBA. He's going to average 12 points, going to average 7 rebounds. I mean, he's going to be an all rookie guy the first year. He's a real legitimate player. Listen, when I was working at Gallery Sports, one of my responsibilities was covering the Houston Cougars pretty much every single game. And Jarris Walker was impressive in every single game. And again, he didn't always shoot the ball well. He didn't always shoot the ball well. He didn't always, jump off the charts. But with a scout's eye, and you can just see it, Jarris Walker is a legit player with great upside, and he's going to fill one of those holes as a forward right out of the gate. And again, Jarris Walker to me is a lot like what Paolo Banchero was last year, right? I said the very same thing about Paolo Banchero. Very often, Paolo Banchero was the best player on the floor at any given moment, right? And Orlando saw that and they took him number 1 overall. And even at the time, I was like, I don't know. I like Jabari Smith. I like Chet Holmgren better. Paolo Banchero proved me wrong last year, right? He was often the best player on the floor, and he didn't always look like it. I have the same criticism as of Jarris Walker, but he's a phenomenal player, and don't let that cloud that. So Orlando, Orlando is a very interesting spot because they're another team. Like, let's just say that the board shakes out, and if you haven't, you know, if you're looking, make sure you check the chat and make sure that you can see um, where these picks have gone so far. So far, Spurs get Wemby, Hornets get Miller, Trailblazers get Scoot, the Rockets get Amin Thompson, the Pistons take Jarris Walker. Right, that's the way my mock draft has looked for the last number of weeks, and I don't think it's going to change until tomorrow night, unless there's a trade. So Orlando is an interesting team because they're another one of these teams that has generally like 3 schools of thought, right? Cam Whitmore still on the board. Okay. Cam Whitmore is going to be the number 1, interesting player in this whole draft because nobody has any idea where he's going to end up. He's going to be the wild card. So Cam Whitmore is going to be floating around. He's an option for Orlando. I think Osar Thompson, the twin of Amin Thompson, is going to be in that spot as a potential pick there. And the one that I'm going to go with is Anthony Black. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because now Anthony Black is my number 12 overall player. Anthony Black is a great defender, true point guard, good passer, right? Has good court vision, plays a really nice brand of basketball, does a lot of the little things right. Okay, and he's going to join a group of really solid guards, right? With Suggs and Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz. He needs to improve as a shooter, but he's a great defender, one of the better defenders in the draft. Good passer. He does a lot of things right. And he's got great size, 6'7", 200 pounds. Okay. Anthony Black, I think, fits Orlando very nicely because of their tendencies. Orlando is a team that likes to go with skill over athleticism. They like guys that are skilled rather than great athletes. And that's a track record based on their last few drafts, right? I mean, Paolo Banchero, number one overall pick. He wasn't a sensational athlete. He's really skilled. Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Jonathan Isaac years ago. Skilled guys, not crazy athletes. Anthony Black is one of those players. So Anthony Black will go to Orlando at number 6. Indiana. Indiana, this one is so easy, and I don't understand why, if the board shook out like this, I don't understand why anybody would have anybody other. Hold on, let me type it in here. I don't understand why anybody would have anyone other than Taylor Hendricks going to the Indiana Pacers. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Taylor Hendricks is an unreal fit for Indiana. He's like their dream player in the whole draft. He is. He's a dream player. The worst kept secret in the NBA is that the Indiana Pacers need a power forward in the worst way. You look at their roster, they literally don't have one. They don't have one. They don't have one. And they're loaded at the wing. They're loaded at the wing. They have spent countless assets on filling up the wing spot. They don't need a center, right? Miles Turner, Isaiah Jackson, they're good in that spot. Andrew Nemhard, Tyrese Halliburton, right? That for point guards, you got Duarte and Benedict Mathurin, and they're loaded at the wing. And listen, if you want to add more depth later on, you could always have more shooting, right? Go ahead. But the opportunity to actually fill the hole is right here. Taylor Hendricks, Central Florida, and like I said, tons of 3-and-D upside. He fits the bill perfectly of what they need. He's a springy athlete, gives you really versatile defense, a lot of scoring upside inside and out. The only thing that people don't like about him is that he doesn't really create for himself yet, but I think that's going to change. Taylor Hendricks is 19 years old. He's a young kid. He's got a lot of upside. So if it were me and I were the Indiana Pacers, very easy pick for me. Taylor Hendricks. He reminds me a lot of Pascal Siakam. He's a very, very good player with really springy athleticism. Like I said, right out of the gate, he's going to give you some 3-and-D. So as he develops. So does Taylor Hendricks solve all of your problems in Indiana? No, but he solves your biggest one. So Taylor Hendricks to the Indiana Pacers is cut and dry what without a doubt what they should be doing. Alberto P. I like that. I'll put that up. All these East teams drafting to lose to the Knicks. Listen, if they play like they did, like they played in the playoffs last year, that might be true. So we go to the Washington Wizards. Washington, they are a team that is going into complete rebuild now, and they are desperate at the guard spot, both spots. Right, Chris Paul ain't sticking around. They just lost Bradley Beal. You know, they really have kind of ignored that spot for a few years. So this one's easy for me because, the versatility that this guy gives you, I think, is something that they should very much value. And that is going to be Osar Thompson, the twin of Amin Thompson. I think he accomplishes a lot for you. Now, I know a lot of people with Cam Whitmore still on the board. Cam Whitmore is going to be a very popular pick here because, listen, he's going to have to stop sliding at some point, right? A lot of people view Cam Whitmore as a top 5 prospect. I don't, but a lot of people view him that way, and they expect a lot of these teams, like I said, even Indiana, right? Indiana, Orlando, Detroit, that range of teams to take him. They expect Washington to take him if he's there. I think the slide keeps going. I really do. Osar Thompson, I think, is the guy that Washington really needs. This is a player that, and especially at this point, right? Osar Thompson, he plays a lot like his brother, but it's a little different because Osar Thompson is a much more developed jump shooter. And by much more developed, I mean, he shot 30%, so still not great. But towards the end of last year, you really saw strides with Thompson as a jump shooter. And like I said, them trading Bradley Beal leaves them with holes at both guard spots, gaping ones. They are desperate in those spots. So he gives you some versatility as a combo guard. And like I said, Amen is very similar to his brother, or I should say it the other way around. But like I said, look at this stat line. Look at the Thompson twins. I will read you their stat line. They both average 16.3 points a game exactly. Amen averaged 6.4 rebounds. Osar averaged 6.9 rebounds. Amen averaged 6.2 assists per game. Osar averaged 6.1 assists per game. They are the same, pretty much. Okay, Osar is a little bit better off the ball. Amen's a little bit a little bit better on the ball. But regardless, he's going to give you exactly what Washington is looking for. If you can develop his jump shot, then you could have a star in your hand. Osar Thompson's the number 5 player on my board. Amen's 4, Osar's 5. They're legit. They're both legit players. Great athleticism, great size. I think Osar is a little bit better of a perimeter defender than Amen is. He's an elite perimeter defender, great passer, can play on and off the ball. He's a great, great player. Washington, I think, would be lucky if they could nab Osar Thompson in this spot. And again, I understand the overtime elite thing, but listen, these guys can play. All you got to do is watch the tape. All you got to do is watch the tape and say, oh, okay, these guys jump through the building. They make great passes. They finish at the rim. They do all that stuff. So that's where I see this. Okay. Now, here's where I get called crazy. And I get called crazy for a lot of reasons, but here's one of them. The slide for Cam Whitmore will continue even at 9. Now, I understand that I'm crazy and I could be very wrong on this, and I'm willing to be wrong. And I've never been afraid to admit when I'm wrong. I was on the radio for years and I was wrong all the time. So let's see this. Number 9, the Utah Jazz. They need a lot of things. Okay, this is a team that started out last year hot, kind of came back to earth. This is where I see them going. They will take Cason Wallace out of Kentucky. Now, I am much higher on Cason Wallace than most people. He's my number 10 overall player. He is a very safe pick for me. Very safe because he plays such a winning brand of basketball. He's a very unselfish player. He's got great court vision. He is an unreal perimeter defender, right? That's one of the things I like about this draft, too, is that, it's not just all shooters. These are guys that play defense. They finish at the rim. They pass. They do a lot of things. They have good size. I mean, all that stuff. He's a great defender. He creates turnovers. He can poke the ball away. They could use a player like this. Now, if you want my honest opinion, I don't know that Cason Wallace is a perennial all-star every single year, but I think he's a 10-year, 11-year, 12-year NBA starter as a point guard. I do. I think he is an incredibly safe player. He's going to have a long NBA career. Now, you'd like to see him get a little bit more consistent as a jump shooter, right? He shot 34.6% from 3 last year. Not bad, but you'd like to see him get a little bit more consistent. A little bit more consistent. He reminds me a lot of Drew Holiday. This is what Cason Wallace is. So Utah is in a position, like I said, where they can go in a lot of different directions. I know Cam Whitmore is going to be the popular selection here if if the board falls like this. But Cason Wallace, to me, he's a stud. I just think that Utah needs to not get a pick wrong, and Cason Wallace, I don't think is a pick that you can get wrong. Okay, Dallas, and doesn't this stink for the Knicks? Because this was supposed to be the Knicks pick. And that did not happen because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dallas's pick was top 10 protected. And what do you know? It falls right at number 10. So, Dallas Mavericks. This is an interesting one. Alberto P. I'll show this right here. We were robbed. Yes, you were. You were very much robbed. All right, here we go. Grady Dick to the Dallas Mavericks. And yes, I understand Cam Whitmore still on the board. But Dallas is going to be one of those teams, right, where you have Luka and you need more guys to shoot around Luka. And Grady Dick does that. Okay. Great size, right? 6'8, 205, all Big 12. He is a phenomenal shooter. Long arms, excuse me, long arms, quick release, just immense offensive upside. Immense offensive upside. There are a lot of people that view Grady Dick as the best shooter in the draft. And this is, again, like, I think Grady Dick will go, higher than his expected slot. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw Grady Dick go as high as 6. I mean that. And I think he's outside of the tier of players that are going to go in that range. Grady Dick, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Grady Dick is my, hold on. We'll get there. Grady Dick is my 13th overall player on my board. Now, I expect him, like I said, I think, correct slot would be late lottery, 12, 13, 14, something around there. Even 10 is not bad. But I do think that going forward, we're going to see teams that are going to pass on these athletic kids, that jump through the building, but they need to develop for these guys that are kind of already athletic, but can shoot the lights out of the building. So, like I said, Grady Dick, he's a good athlete. He's a guy that can fill it up as a shooter. He's really crafty at the rim as a driver. He's a solid ball handler. Now, again, he's going to struggle defensively. He's not a very strong defender. But for a team like Dallas, I mean, you're looking for guys that are not necessarily stars that you need to develop, but guys that can provide in a big way. I mean, Grady Dick could walk into the NBA tomorrow and probably average 14 points a game just because he's going to shoot 42% from three. Like, he's just going to be an incredible shooter. So Grady Dick will go to the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, here we go. Now, number 11 is where we see the Orlando Magic again. And oh, wouldn't you know it, we finally get Cam Whitmore. Now, here's the thing. Cam Whitmore, there probably has not been a player. No, I'm wrong. Olivier Maxson's Prosper. We'll talk about that later. But there probably has not been a player that I have disrespected more than Cam Whitmore. I mean that. Okay. Because I have been a little bit further down on him than most. I know a lot of people have him. There are some people that have him over Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller. There are guys that think that they are super bullish on Cam Whitmore. I am not. I think he's got a lot of development to go. But the positive side about him is that he's an insane scorer. He's got a ton of upside. And listen, if you can get the best out of him, he's going to be great. He has a great speed, great blow-by speed. He's got unbelievable burst off the dribble. That is something that he really does have. He is an unbelievable driver to the basket. He hits holes quickly and with explosiveness. So he'll get up and finish at the rim with absolutely no problem. Really finishes in traffic. He has some versatility as a defender. He can pick your pocket with some of the best in the draft. He's a really solid player. Plays aggressively on the defensive side. The problem is that he's a very unproven shooter. Now, I know that his three-point percentage last year was not bad, 34.3% from three. But again, a lot of his offense is going to have to be made for him. He doesn't create his own shot yet. And he's one of these players that just kind of needs to, you know, keep developing his jumper. Now, it improved towards the end of last year, but like I said, he still needs to prove it to me, right? He's kind of a poor passer, and I shouldn't say kind of a poor passer. He's a poor passer. He averaged less than an assist a game last year. So he is a ball stopper, and if you're going to be a ball stopper, you better be able to shoot at a consistent rate. So if that's what Cam Whitmore is going to be, like I said, 6'7", 232, good size, right? Athleticism is there. He just needs some development. So Orlando, and if this is the situation that plays out for Orlando where you get Anthony Black and you get Cam Whitmore, that's legit. That's a really, really home run draft. And they've had a couple in recent years, so it doesn't surprise me. All right, so let's go to number 12. And this is where we're going to speed things up a little bit um, because we've been going for 45 minutes and we're only 11 picks deep. So we're going to speed things up a little bit, speed up the process. The Oklahoma City Thunder sit at number 12, and I think their natural guy is Derek Lively out of Duke. 7'2". What does he say? Is that how tall he is? 7'2". What did I have him listed as? 7'1". 7'1", 230. Derek Lively, 7'8" wingspan. He's got great length. Um, Great defensive player. I think he projects automatically as a great defensive player. He's one of the better shot blockers in the draft. He averaged 2.5 blocks a game. And one of the things that he does really well is he's a great switcher onto the perimeter. He's got great lateral quickness for his size. He's got some nice touch around the rim on the offensive side. Now, again, I told Bryson Carver this a number of weeks ago because he wants the Golden State Warriors to go get him. I think he's going to be gone by then, but he's got a long way to go offensively. I just think, he could step out and shoot. I'm not sure I'm not sure he'll get there, but you're kind of banking a lot on upside with Derek Lively for him to be more than just a rim running, rim protecting center. And if you're going to use a lottery pick on that, then you got to be kind of aware that his upside might be limited in that case. So Derek Lively will go to the Oklahoma City Thunder. One of the reasons I actually really like this fit is it provides a little bit of protection for Chet Holmgren. Because Chet is another one of these, thin, tall, I think he's gonna be a good center in the NBA, but if you want to play him at forward, you can. And Derek Lively makes it so that you have some rim protection while he's on the floor if you want to move Chet Holmgren around a little bit. So I like that. So Derek Lively will go to OKC at number 12. Number 13, the Toronto Raptors are a team that could use a little bit extra scoring. And that's exactly what they're going to get. They're going to go for Keontae George out of Baylor. Now, Keontae George, like I said, you can never have enough scoring, right? And he gives them that right away. This guy is just a bucket. He just is. A gifted all-around scorer and shooter from all over the floor. He's a real solid ball handler who creates his own offense. He's actually a relatively decent passer, believe it or not. And listen, he was one of the best players in the Big 12 last year. He's just such a bucket getter. He was all Big 12, 15 points a game. Now, you'd like to see his efficiency numbers go up. I mean, he was shooting at a really high volume last year, so there's going to be something with that. And he doesn't have top tier athleticism, but my pro comparison for him was Desmond Bane. I mean, and you see what Desmond Bane has been able to do. And I think Keontae George is a more natural scorer than Desmond Bane was when he came out of college. So Keontae George for me, good fit here in Toronto. All right, let's go to New Orleans, the end of the lottery, folks. Number 14 for the end of the lottery. And we are going to go to a national champion, and we are going to see Jordan Hawkins out of UConn going to New Orleans. And this is a pick that I'm in love with because I love Jordan Hawkins. I really do. Jordan Hawkins, if I am not mistaken, I just want to make sure I have it right. I don't want to give you false information. Jordan Hawkins, my number 11 player. He really is. He's a stud. This guy just knows how to shoot. He does. He is an absolute bucket from the perimeter. Such an incredible shooter. Knockdown shots at a consistent rate. He's above average athlete, creates space for himself. I know there's a lot of people out there in the scouting world that have kind of limited his upside a little bit because they don't think he's going to be a reliable scorer. I shouldn't say not a reliable scorer. He's not going to be a reliable shot creator. He doesn't show that much. I disagree. I think there's going to be a time where his ball handling and his offensive game are going to come together. I mean, you got to keep in mind, along with Adama Sanogo, Jordan Hawkins really led that UConn team to a national title as a 4 seed. They were really, really solid in the tournament. And people kind of knew for a while that they were going to be the team that ended up taking it. Now, like I said, I get it from some perspective, from a scouting standpoint, where there are some people that say, listen, he just doesn't have the crazy traits that some of these other guys have, right? He doesn't have Osar Thompson's, athleticism. He doesn't have Cam Whitmore's athleticism. He doesn't have Grady Dick's. Like he doesn't have all that. I get it, but his shot making ability, if you value shooting and feel for the game and dog, Jordan Hawkins is that player. So New Orleans will grab a serious shooter and shot maker in Jordan Hawkins at number 14. All right, number 15. Now, this pick is kind of one I've been asking for the Atlanta Hawks for a long time because I just feel like this is something they desperately need and they've needed for a long time. Let's give them Jalen Hood-Schifino because this is a player, at least in my view, that can really sort of change the outlook of their bench. He really can. 6'6", 213, 13 and a half points a game. He's a gifted passer. Now, if you're going to look at me sideways and say, well, listen, Mike, last year at Indiana, 3.7 assists per game. It's not like he was lighting it up. No, but he's got great court vision, guys. He really does. He's got phenomenal court vision. Now, I know what you're also thinking. Well, they also have DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray's a pretty good passer. Yes, he is. So is Trae Young. Trae Young's a pretty good passer. But they could use a guy that gives an extra boost for Trae Young and DeJounte Murray to play more off ball. That would be really optimal for them. And Jalen Hood-Schifino gives them that because not only is he a great passer, he's a solid defender, gives you some sneaky versatility. I compared him to Spencer Dinwiddie. He's kind of that kind of guy where, his 3-point shot right now is not incredibly reliable, but you give him a few years, he's got good work ethic. There's no reason why he can't extend his range to a consistent point. So Jalen Hood-Schifino, I think, is a great fit here. He's got an ironclad mid-range game. He's a great, great mid-range shooter. Great in the drive and kick. He's going to be really good in the pick and roll. And again, like I said, good defender, great size. He just needs to improve as a shooter. So I love the fit for Atlanta. Give me Jalen Hood-Schifino at 15. 16. Now, this is one of my favorite picks of the whole draft. And I know that there are going to be a lot of people that say, it's a little bit of a reach. And I don't necessarily disagree. And it might just be because I'm a little higher on this guy than most are, even though it doesn't really reflect it on my big board. It's just you have those guys that you just like for some reason. Leonard Miller is one of those guys for me. Now, I remember Leonard Miller from last year because Leonard Miller declared last year and then withdrew. And he was, if he had come out last year, mid-second round pick, right? If that, he could have gone undrafted. Not now. No, not anymore. Leonard Miller, I think, is a for sure first round pick. And now you're looking at the Jazz in this situation where, all right, at number 9, you took Cason Wallace. And you passed up on Grady Dick. You passed up on Cam Whitmore. I see what you did. But you took a safer player. Cason Wallace, you just got a 10, 12-year starter at point guard. Leonard Miller is, I think, a long-time NBA player. Long-time NBA player. For the G League Ignite this year, and again, he's 6'10", 210. Great size. Now, he was previously listed as a small forward. I think he's going to play more 4 than 3. 18 points a game, 11 rebounds. He shot 55.5% from the field, 80% from the free throw line. Just a solid player, a solid output. And like I said, I love the fit. I just do. Right? Lauri Markkanen, kind of a combo forward. Leonard Miller can probably be more of a combo forward. And it might be a few spots ahead of his, projected range, but I just love the versatility that he brings. He's so NBA ready. He's a phenomenal rebound. He's aggressive underneath the basket. He's a good driver to the basket, good mid-range game. He's got a left-handed jump shot, and he turns his defense into offense. That's one of the things I love about him. And this is another trait that's going to be common in guys within this draft. Something that's really, really common is guys that turn turnovers into instant offense. He runs the floor really, really well. Just a good, good player. So I love the fit here. Utah, for me, would score big time. They take Casey Wallace and Leonard Miller here. That's a big time score. All right, 17. This is the Los Angeles Lakers. And I'm going to check my phone quick because I just want to make sure that the Lakers didn't trade the pick during the show. Just because I don't know. I want to make sure that I'm not telling you useless information. I'm not. Okay, we're good here. Um, the Lakers are very simple. What do they need? Everybody together. Shooting. They need shooters in a big way. And that's why Jet Howard is perfect for them because Jet Howard is a shooter. Oh boy. I need to get over myself sometimes. 6'8", 215, great size, right? He's not a great athlete. I'm warning you right now. He's not a great athlete. He is not going to jump out of the building. He's not really going to create much of his own shot, right? He can a little, but he's not a big time shot creator. He's a more of a spot up shooter kind of player, but he's very, very, very consistent, right? 36.8 from three last year. He averaged 14 points a game. He was the expected guy before Kobe Buffkin went on his entire, his big rant and we're going to get into him in a minute, but he can hit shots from all over the floor. You saw glimpses of him being able to create his own shot, but again, it's not going to be all that consistent. And I think you have a lot of positional versatility with Jet Howard. I think you can probably play him at the 4 in certain lineups. I know that that's going to be unpopular, but I think you could probably play him from 2 all the way to 4 and have him not kill you. Um, he's going to struggle defensively. Like I said, he's just not an insane athlete, but he's got a big NBA body. He's a solid playmaker. The ball doesn't stick to his hands. So this is the kind of player that I think the Lakers are in desperation of because you saw them in the playoffs last year. They just couldn't find reliable shooting. So what do? Let's get Jet Howard in a Laker uniform. All right, the Miami Heat. Now I'm going to go a little off the board here for Miami because they're kind of interesting for me. I am going to give them a little bit of a project. I'm going to give them GG Jackson. Now, GG Jackson likely at this point, likely will go second round. I'm imagining early second round for GG Jackson, late first, early second. But the reality is his upside is phenomenal. He really is. And the truth is about Miami is that Miami likes to do this. Miami really likes to take guys that have either underperformed in college but have great upside, high level recruits. They like to take these kind of players and try to get the best out of them. I remember that they did that with Bam Adebayo. They've done it with Tyler Hero. They've done it with Nikola Jovic. That's what they do. They take these guys with high upside and they gamble. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it works. So GG Jackson is one of these players. 6'9", 215, great athlete, right? He's one of these uber athletic two-way players that can score in a variety of ways. Now, he had some character issues last year, right? Now, he's an immature kid, right? That's his deal. Is that he's a little bit loud, he's a little bit immature. He will stuff it in your face and let you know it. And everything like I get it. He plays with a ton of effort. I get it. And he's got heart. If you can settle him down a bit, then the upside is really, really crazy. He's got a wide scoring repertoire. He's a really nice player. Like I said, he's going to go to a stable organization that likes to do this with guys. If you can buy into his upside, right? Listen, 15 and a half points a game. He averaged 6 rebounds. He needs to get a little bit more efficient. He needs to become a little bit better of a free throw shooter. And like I said, he's a very vocal player with good athletic talent. So if you can make that work, then that would be fantastic. So Gregory Gigi Jackson going to the Miami Heat at number 18. All right, let's go 19. Bryson Carver, if you are listening, now is the time to tune me up a little bit. Because not just because the Warriors are picking, but because the Warriors in my mock draft are making one of my favorite picks of the entire draft. Um, and this is it, folks. This is the kind of player that they just need to add to this rotation. Let's give them Nick Smith Jr. I love, love this fit. He is like Sean Livingston, Jordan Poole, but better. He just is. 6'5", 185. He's got a thin frame, right? Thin frame. He needs to bulk up. But super high upside as a scorer. He underwhelmed drastically last year at Arkansas. But this was the number 1 overall recruit in his high school class. This guy can play. Really, really play. Now, here's the thing. Nick Smith went to Arkansas, and Arkansas was loaded last year, right? They have a ton of draft talent. Anthony Black, Ricky Council, Jordan Walsh, Nick Smith. They had a ton of draft talent. He doesn't jump out of the gym, but boy, does he give you a ton of upside. He just does. He's an outstanding finisher at the rim. He's got great speed down the floor. He's a phenomenal transition player. He's not crazy efficient as a shooter, but this is one of the things I love about him. He's got a very smooth jump shot, and he can create his own shot. If the shots fall, he's more. Where did I have Nick Smith on this big board? I'll tell you in a second. You'd think I have it memorized, but I don't. Nick Smith is my 19th overall player. He's better than 19 if you can get his shots to fall consistently. He just is. If you can get the best out of him, he'll be a top 10 player in this draft. Nick Smith is a stud. Make no mistake about it. And he fits Golden State perfectly. He is going to be the guy that plays both roles behind Steph, behind Clay in the backcourt, and he does a little bit of everything. He's just a good player. Like I said, shot selection wasn't great. The shots need to fall down. He needs to bulk up. But if you can fix those things, then you have a hell of a player on your hands in Golden State. As much as I hate them, they're good at this drafting thing. So it would be one heck of a pick. Now, like I said, there's a lot of players that have flown up the board recently that I have not had drafted yet. And one of them is this guy. The Houston Rockets are sitting at number 20 with another opportunity to add more playmaking and more defense. Let's do that. Let's give them Bilal Coulibaly, Wemby's teammate. So Bilal Coulibaly is, I say at this point, again, my understanding of the whole situation is with him is that there are a lot of people that love him in the lottery. OKC is interested. Dallas is interested. Orlando's interested. They love this guy's skill set. Like I said, if we're talking about Houston, right? Playmaking and defense is what they need to accomplish. Both of their first round picks, these are the only 2 picks they have in the whole draft, 4 and 20. Both of these picks need to be dedicated to playmaking and defense. It will serve them wonders. So Bilal Coulibaly does that. 6'7", 200 pounds. He did not have a crazy stat line, right? He didn't have a crazy stat line. You're looking for production. It's not there. But he's a phenomenal finisher at the rim. He's got great body control. He's a smart defensive player. He's a great help defender, great basketball IQ. He gives you some positional versatility and some shooting upside, right? Listen, I like to look at Bilal Coulibaly as he's the Usman Jeng of this year's draft, right? Usman Jeng last year ended up going to OKC, the kind of unknown, crazy talented forward that, it's the Greek freak sort of factor. Bilal Coulibaly is this year's player that fits that mold. So Bilal Coulibaly goes to the Rockets. So we're done with the top 20, folks. We're through the top 20. We'll get through these last 10, and then I'll motor through the second round. I won't even go into crazy depth in the second round because again, it's so crazy. Or maybe I won't even do it. Who knows? Because it's such an unpredictable round. Um, Now the Brooklyn Nets. This is interesting now because they have 2 picks in a row, so they need to tackle the guard spot with both of these picks, I think. So let's give them Kobe Buffkin with their first pick. Um, they need a lot of help in the backcourt, like I said. So I would expect them to use both of their picks on guards. He's a great fit. Another player who's flying up boards. There are a lot of people that think that Kobe Buffkin could go as high as like 9 or 8. And it's not a shock because what he was able to do at Michigan this past year was really impressive. He really came onto the scene as their primary guy. He was a stud for Michigan this year. Unbelievable finisher at the rim. And it's interesting what he does at the rim because he's one of these guys that can just like contort his body, like he suspends himself in midair and he just uses that great body control and just like he just finds ways to crafty finish at the rim. Right? I wish I had more of a better explanation, but he can manipulate timing and it's really impressive. He's not a proven shooter, but he has a nice left-handed stroke. He's going to get better at shooting. He needs to be a little bit better at making decisions. He's not a great decision maker yet with the basketball in his hands. He's still a little bit raw. I'm not sure he walks into the NBA and becomes an immediate contributor. But his upside is real, is there. 6'4", 175. He's got to bulk up a little bit. He reminds me a lot of Jordan Poole. So, like I said, he's got some upside, 14 points a game this year, 35.5% from three. Again, not bad. I think he's got to develop that a little bit more. But he shot 48% from the field. So he had a nice, efficient year, 85% from the free throw line. He's not a liability at the free throw line. So, I think the Nets are taking a high upside player that can make a difference for them in the future, probably not right away. And now we're going to have another pick here for Brooklyn. But like I said, they need to tackle this guard spot twice in a row. Another one of my favorite players in the whole draft. Let's give them Ryan Rupert. Ryan Rupert is one of my favorites in the whole draft. This kid is so good. Now, French kid, 6'6", 193. He's been listed as high as 6'8". So 6'6" is a little on the, a little on the shorter side of where he's been projected. But he's a special, special defender. I think right now, he may be the best perimeter defender in the draft. He's one of the best perimeter defenders I've ever evaluated. He is just such an incredible defender with great lateral quickness. He creates turnovers like nobody else's business. He turns defense into offense. This is another one of these guys. I just love the way he plays defense. Um, he's got a well-rounded offensive skill set. But again, Brooklyn now, they took Kobe Buffkin and now they're taking Ryan Rupert. These are 2 guys where their offensive skill set kind of needs to get developed. These are 2 guys that are not necessarily ready to go. And that's okay for Brooklyn because they're trying to rebuild this thing. They're trying to get this thing back to a place where, they're recovering from the whole Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving thing. So if they can do that, I think Ryan Rupert gives them a lot of upside as a two-way player. I actually think he has some future all-star potential. I really am high on this kid. He reminds me a lot of Andre Iguodala. If he can learn how to shoot, like really learn how to shoot, I, I mean, I think the sky is the limit for this kid. Truthfully, he really is. He's got a thin frame, needs to fill out. Um, and one of the things that he needs to do a little bit better, repair, is that he needs to get a little bit more aggressive towards the rim. A lot of the time, he settles for jump shots, and you just don't want to see that. So, if he can get a little bit more aggressive, then I think they could have something really special. So the Nets come away with Kobe Buffkin and Ryan Rupert. I think that's a really solid haul for them. Let's go to the Trailblazers at 23. This is their second pick. They took Scoot Henderson. They still need to fill that hole at that small forward swingman spot. So let's just give them a shot maker, right? Let's give them Bryce Sensabaugh. Um, Bryce Sensabaugh out of Ohio State, 6'6", 235. He's got a big body, right? He uses his size. This is one of the things I like about him. He uses his size to leverage his position underneath. So, one of these things that these young guys need to learn how to do is they just need to learn how to use their body to their advantage, right? These guys with these big athletic bodies, use it. Use your butt to get into the paint and win position, right? And he does it on both ends. He does. 5.5 rebounds per game, which is pretty solid for a guy who's 6'6", 16 points a game. He's a very efficient shooter. That's going to be his role in the NBA. 40.5% from three last year. He shot 48% from the field and 83% free throw shooter. He's a very good shooter of the basketball. Um, Gives him some consistent floor spacing, shoots the ball well from all over the floor. He can beat you in a lot of different ways. He's actually not a terrible finisher at the rim, believe it or not. He really isn't. Um, he's got some upside as a facilitator. He averaged just over 1 assist a game, but if you look back at what he was able to do in high school as well, this is a guy that actually did pass the ball pretty well. The ball doesn't really stick to his hands. He's going to be a very nice system player. So Bryce Sensabaugh, I think, fits nicely with Portland. He'll fit right into that three spot, um, and he'll probably come off the bench and play a contributing role, which is kind of what you're looking for at this point in the draft as well. Sacramento Kings. This is going to be a fun one because I couldn't resist, but it actually does make sense, believe it or not. Let's give them Keegan's brother, Chris. Chris Murray is a very solid player that doesn't really have a hold of his game, believe it or not. He's just a good player. Just is. Okay. He's 6'8". He averaged 20 points a game. 20 points a game at Iowa last year. 8 rebounds. Really well-rounded player. And I think, listen, sometimes this happens. If you can put Keegan and Chris on the same team, I mean, who knows? You might get the best out of both of them. So you might be getting a player and a half out of this. So, he plays similar to his brother. He's got less upside. He's not as good of an athlete as Keegan was, but he's a good all-around player. He's a great half-court player. He does well in the pick and roll. He can shoot it a little bit. This is the thing about Chris Murray is that he's not bad at anything, but he's not great at anything, right? He's just a well-rounded player, right? He's not a phenomenal athlete. I get all that. But listen, he can put the ball on the deck and get to the rim, does well in the pick and roll. Like I said, he's going to fit a lot of current NBA systems. So Chris Murray will go to Sacramento at number 24. 25. Now, I love this kid, and I am way higher on him than most. But the Memphis Grizzlies need some juice on the wing. Let's go Maxwell Lewis. Maxwell Lewis is just an absolute stud offensive player. He just is. He is a scorer like you wouldn't believe. Great athlete. He's got great size, 6'7", good length, great athleticism. He finishes above the rim. He can shoot the ball well. Again, his problem is defense. He doesn't provide the same energy or consistency on defense that he does on the offensive side of the basketball. It's very clear when you watch tape. He's much more passionate as an offensive player than he is as a defensive player. Um, but he's a great athlete. You fall in love with his ability to score the basketball. The guy can just flat out score. He creates his own shot, great size and length. Now, again, he's raw. He needs to improve a little bit, but Maxwell Lewis is one of these players where, and if you're Memphis too, you need guys that can score. They've done a really good job at finding guys that can play defense, but they need some scoring on the wing. They need more scoring on the wing. It can't be Desmond Bane and nobody else. So Maxwell Lewis gives you that. Again, he's a little bit raw. He might take a little bit of time, but his upside is through the roof. And I think if you get him in the right system and you really commit to developing him, he can be a really special player. He really can. 26, Indiana. Uh, I was surprised when I was scouting that I didn't like this kid more, because when I watched him in live tape, I liked him. But let's go for Indiana at 26. Let's give them Dariq Whitehead. Um, Now, here's the thing. Dariq Whitehead is one of these players where, like, if you watch him in real time, he does stand out. He does. He's a good player. Really, really good player. He plays with a ton of effort. He's a really tough kid. He's resilient. He suffered several injuries, dating back to high school. So, his athleticism took a big hit, but he's got a ton of upside as a scorer. He really does. He was a better shooter. He was a better shooter than most people expected him to be, this past season. He shot 43% from three at Duke this year. Just really good. Really, really solid player. Tons of intangibles. He anticipates passes. He's a good passer, good length and effort. Like I said, if he can give you more upside as a scorer and as an athlete, then Dariq Whitehead could be a diamond in the rough kind of player. Because when you look at him from a scouting perspective, like, he doesn't jump off the page. It's not like he jumps out of the building. It's not like he's a big time shot creator. Like, he doesn't really, jump out and say, damn, like, that guy can really do it, you know. But Dariq Whitehead, that he can play. So, kind of a combo wing. And you're Indiana now. Like I said it earlier. Once you solve the power forward spot, you go get Taylor Hendricks. Now you can load up on wings. Now you can load up on guys that you think are just crazy talented. And this is what Dariq Whitehead is. So go get Dariq Whitehead at 26. Okay. Now, this is where I get kind of negative because, again, this is a mock draft. This is not how I would do everything. This is a combination of how I would do it and what I've heard. I know that this guy is going to go in round one, and I'm not sure I agree, but we are going to roll with it anyway. Charlotte Hornets at number 27 are going to take Olivier Maxence Prosper. Now, I am very, very iffy on Omax. I really am. Now, it might not be 100% fair on my part. See, he's even far in my scouting reports. I have it right in front of me. But I might not be being fair with him, but he didn't win any awards in college. And I just don't see the skill that stands out. Now, what is inflating his stock so much is he absolutely destroyed the pre-draft process. They love the kid, they love the athlete, and he did really well at the combine. That's what I'm hearing. Olivier Maxence Prosper has crushed the pre-draft process. Now, and listen, he's a solid athlete. He can finish at the rim. He plays with a ton of energy, which bodes well for him on the defensive side. I get it. However, there are a lot of people that view him as a wing player, and I don't. I don't think he has the skill set of a wing. I think he has the skill set of a four, and just a four, because I don't know that he's not a good enough rebounder or shot blocker to play five. And he's really not a great rebounder or shot blocker to play four. Keep this in mind. Last year at Marquette, He's 6'8", 218 pounds, good athlete. 4.7 rebounds. 4.7. The guy's got to pull down more boards. Pull down more boards. 0.1 blocks per game. He's got to get up and contest more shots. So, all right, I'm done being negative about him, though. But he is a good athlete. He just needs to become a little bit better of a rebounder, better shooter. He's flying up boards. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I am. But he does play with a ton of effort. He does a nice job on defense on the perimeter. Listen, he's a nice player. And maybe you can find something in him. I just need to see it. I might be missing something. Maybe somebody can prove me wrong. So Omax will go to the Charlotte Hornets. We're right towards the home stretch here, folks. Utah Jazz is their last pick of the first round. Their last of three. Taysom Wallace, Leonard Miller. And let's give them another guy who crushed the pre-draft process and an immediate contributor in my eyes. Let's give them Brandon Podziemski. Now, Brandon Podziemski is one of these guys that I think is going to contribute as soon as he steps into the NBA. 20 points per game last year at Santa Clara. He averaged almost 9 rebounds. This guy's 6'5". He's 6'5", 200 pounds, and he averaged almost 9 rebounds a game. Just a sensational rebounder for his size. He's a great shooter. Really great shooter. 44% from 3 last year. And listen, he's a transfer from Illinois. He went to Illinois, and the coach pretty much said, listen, man, you're not good enough to play here. So what did he do? He went to Santa Clara, and he averaged 20 points a game, 9 rebounds, shot 48% from the field, averaged 1.8 steals a game. He could play a little bit of defense, by the way. I mean, listen, this kid is going to go first round. He's going to go late first, and he's going to contribute for somebody. You know, it wouldn't shock me if I saw him go as high as 18, 17, something like that. He reminds me a lot of Luke Kennard. He's just a great shot maker. Now, he's also a pretty good pick and roll ball handler, not a terrible passer. If you can continue to develop his ability to ball handle and pass and get his teammates involved and everything like that, I mean, you could even see him handling the ball in a lot of situations. So, really polished player. Now, he doesn't have elite athleticism. His upside might be limited. Again, his upside might be limited to just a spark scorer if you can't improve his ability to ball handle and pass. But the truth of the matter is that, he's a shooter. And right out of the gate, he's going to be a shooter. So Podziemski will go to the Utah Jazz. So in this mock, we've got Utah taking Taysom Wallace, Leonard Miller, and Brandon Podziemski. Those are 3 contributors right out of the gate. Those are 3 guys that will play for you next year. Next year. And may start in some scenarios. Taysom Wallace might start from day one. So 3 players for Utah that are going to play. Okay. Now, this pick 29 did belong to the Indiana Pacers, but it's going to the Denver Nuggets. And this is part of the trade where the Nuggets got 29 and 32 from Indiana. The Pacers got number 40 from the Nuggets, and they also got a first-round pick next year from the Nuggets. So, and Indiana, I think this is a good move. They cannot take on 5 rookies. I don't even know that they're going to take on 4. So they might not be done dealing picks. But now Denver, they're looking for cheap ways to find talent. And this is going to be a very interesting pick for them because they're going to take a guy that I know a lot of people are very, very interested in and very high on. And they are going to take, here we go, Jaime Jaquez. Just a good player. He's just like, and I know I say that a lot, but when I say it like this, and I mean it with Jaime Jaquez, he is a good basketball player. Like, if you just understand that, there's a difference between having good traits and understanding the game and playing it at a high level. Jaime Jaquez is one of those players. Jaime Jaquez at UCLA last year. Listen, there were very few guys in college basketball, and it's only a select few every year, only a select few that can truly take over a game. Jaime Jaquez could take over games. I mean, very few guys can do that at the college level. So he's a great all around defender. Jaime Jaquez is 3-time All Pac 12, 2-time Pac 12 All Defense. He's a consensus All American, NCAA All Region. He's an incredibly decorated player. He's had a phenomenal career at UCLA. Listen, he's just some of the cleanest footwork and deception that I've ever seen in the low post. He's just a great, great player. Listen, I have him listed as a small forward. He's more of a combo forward. He's going to play both positions. And again, he's NBA ready. He's going to contribute next year. You know, if he can turn up the efficiency as a three-point shooter and turn into a real stretch forward, then he's going to have a long career in the NBA because people are just going to love his attitude, his basketball IQ, his feel for the game, all of that. Jaime Jaquez is going to have a great, great NBA career if he can learn more how to shoot. Um, he's got tons of upside as an offensive player, man. So I love his. Listen, he's a what is he? 20. I want to say he's like 28 on my board, which is similar to where he's going right now. 28. Would you look at that? 28. Maybe I do have this thing memorized. So he'll go to the Nuggets at 29. All right, last one, 30. Now, this is reportedly going to the Washington Wizards as part of the trade that is sending Kristaps Porzingis to Boston. It is sending Malcolm Brogdon to the Clippers. This was originally the Clippers pick. Now I think it's going to Washington. And Washington now, listen, like I said, full rebuild. They need a lot of stuff. They needed a guard, and they got Osar Thompson. Great pick. Now they need a big. They've needed bigs for a long time. I'm going to give them Noah Clowney. Okay. So Noah Clowney out of Alabama will be the pick here for Washington at 30. Listen, he's a great pick and roll player. He's a dream pick and roll player. Okay. One of these guys that just understands, he's got a great feel for the game. He's a good athlete. He's got great lateral mobility. He's 6'10", 210. He averaged just a tad under 10 points a game last year, but he averaged 8 rebounds. 8 rebounds. Listen, his efficiency needs to get a little bit better, but he finishes at the rim really well. Explosiveness is there. He's deceptive underneath the basket. He doesn't just hoist up shots. One of these things that I like about Noah Clowney that not a lot of bigs have, and even at the NBA level, Noah Clowney has patience under the rim. He will grab an offensive rebound and he will wait and pump and wait and pump and then go up when the shot is open. He will be patient under the rim, which is why I love his upside as a versatile scorer. I actually think he can develop into a capable three-point shooter. I have him listed as a center. I know there are a lot of people that have him listed as a power forward. He is kind of a little bit of a combo big, but listen, I love what he does as a pick and roll player. If he can set a solid screen and you have to choose between guarding him on the roll or guarding him on the pop, I think that's a real thing for Noah Clowney to master and develop. He could be one of these really good NBA centers. He reminds me a lot of Christian Wood. So if he can do that, like I said, he doesn't create his own shot, but if he can do that and he can develop as an offensive player. He's still relatively thin. So, he's an aggressive rebounder, but his profile's still pretty thin. So he might get bullied early in his career, but now you're Washington, you have time. Okay, throw this kid out there, let him get his ass kicked, and then he'll develop that way. And that's fine. So, all right, that does it for the first round. So if you haven't seen, if you're just joining us, or if you joined us late, I'll run through the first round real quick, just running through picks. San Antonio at 1 with Victor Wembanyama. That's an obvious one. Charlotte gets Brandon Miller. Portland gets Scoot Henderson. Amon Thompson goes to the Rockets. The Pistons take Jarris Walker. Anthony Black goes to Orlando. Taylor Hendricks will go to the Indiana Pacers. Osar Thompson, the other Thompson twin, will go to Washington at number 8. Number 9, Cason Wallace out of Kentucky goes to Utah Jazz. Dallas will take Grady Dick. Orlando at number 11 will take Cam Whitmore. That's when the Cam Whitmore slide ends. Derek Lively goes to OKC. At number 12, Keontae George out of Baylor goes to the Raptors at 13. And the Pelicans, to finish out the lottery, will take Jordan Hawkins at 14. Then we go post-lottery. Number 15, Jalen Hood-Schifino, the point guard out of Indiana, will go to Atlanta. Leonard Miller out of the from the G League Ignite will go to the Jazz at 16. The Lakers at 17 take Jet Howard out of Michigan. Gigi Jackson, again, I'm a little higher on him. Gigi Jackson goes to Miami at 18. Nick Smith out of Arkansas will go to the Golden State Warriors at 19. Bilal Coulibaly at 20 to the Rockets. Kobe Buffkin to the Nets at 21. Ryan Rupert to the Nets at 22. Then we get Bryce Sensabaugh at 23 to the Portland Trailblazers. Chris Murray to the Kings at 24. Pairing him up with Keegan, that's pretty fun. Maxwell Lewis will go out of Pepperdine, will go to the Memphis Grizzlies at 25. Dariq Whitehead to the Indiana Pacers at 26. Olivier Maxence Prosper to the Hornets at 27. Utah will take Brandon Podziemski at 28. The Denver Nuggets, this newly acquired pick at 29, they'll take Jaime Jaquez out of UCLA. And then the Wizards will take Noah Clowney at number 30 with their pick that they got from the Clippers. So, all right, I won't go through the second round, but I will try to have a new mock draft posted, at least in a PDF version. I'm not sure I can get a full article up before tomorrow night, but this is the updated mock. So if listen, if you enjoyed this coverage, I highly encourage you to tune into the draft show tomorrow night with myself and Bryson Carver. Again, I want to thank everybody for listening, for tuning in, and hopefully we can make this a habit. I really am trying to get back in the groove of things. It's been a while since I've been on the mic. I've been doing a lot of draft coverage. I was on the draft show here with the Grid for the NFL draft. I've appeared on a couple different podcasts since then, but again, I'd like to get things up and running again. So again, if you liked the draft coverage, make sure you leave your feedback here. And listen, it's live on YouTube, it's live on Twitter at the Grid. So make sure you tune in tomorrow night, Thursday night, NBA draft. We'll have the entire draft coverage covered. It'll be myself, it'll be Bryson Carver, it will be, I'm sure, several others from the Grid Network. And make sure you tune in. So as for myself, I'm Mike Guido, and it's great to have you with me here on the Grid. Thank you for tuning into my Grid takeover. And again, if you have any questions on the draft, if you're wondering about a prospect, please reach out to me, ask me. I'll tell you anything that you need to know. We'll have a debate. If you disagree with me, tell me and we can have that conversation. So as for myself and everybody at the Grid Network, I want to thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow night.